Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We are currently just continuing to let individuals in from the waiting room, so appreciate your patience. We will begin momentarily. Thank you all again for continuing to wait patiently. We just got a few more individuals in the waiting room that we are adding. Appreciate, again, the patience, and we will begin momentarily.
Welcome, brothers. My name is Justin Kirk, and I serve as the Executive Director of Delta Upsilon Fraternity and Educational Foundation. Before we begin today's undergraduate convention, I want to review the meeting rules for using Zoom. Please ensure that your Zoom name is changed to show your first and last name and your chapter. To do this, hover over the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of your video image and click on Rename. We will utilize the Zoom chat box throughout the convention. If it is not currently showing on your screen, please click on the chat icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen. Throughout the convention, please refrain from using the chat box for side conversations. The transcript of the chat box will be downloaded at the end of the meeting and included in the minutes and transcript. During various parts of the meeting, the convention chairman will ask for motions and seconds. To make a motion or second, please use the chat box. If you would like to speak or ask a question during discussion time period, please type in the chat box, "I request to speak." Please ensure that your messages in the chat box are set to send to everyone. Additionally, you may want to change your Zoom screen to show the active speaker view so that the person speaking always pops to the front of your screen. In the top right-hand corner of your screen, click Speaker View. If you are logged on from your cell phone or tablet, you will automatically be on the active speaker view screen. If at any point you encounter technical difficulties, please direct message Delta Upsilon or Veronica Moore in the chat box. I will now turn it over to Cole Carnes, Alberta 21 Convention Chairman.
We are assembled as brothers in Delta Upsilon, united in a common cause, which we avow to be the promotion of friendship, the development of character, the diffusion of liberal culture, and the advancement of justice. It is my privilege and duty to urge you that as we do here meet, we may be mindful of the objectives for which we exist as a fraternity. May our hearts be filled with the joy of friendship. May our purpose be true. May our conversation be worthy. May our acts be just. May God bless us and make every mind full of his mercies. We will now sing the Delta Upsilon Ode. During the singing of the Delta Upsilon Ode, to open the convention, Brother Liam Keane, Lehigh 23, is privileged to be the virtual bearer of the convention banneret as the youngest member in attendance. Thank you, brothers. I would now like to call upon Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville 22, to lead us in reciting the Delta Upsilon Oath.
I, of my own free will and accord, in the presence of God and of these witnesses, do hereby solemnly declare that the principles of this fraternity, as they have been explained to me, accord entirely with my own views, and I solemnly promise that as a member of this fraternity, I will faithfully adhere to those principles, endeavoring in every way to perfect myself morally, intellectually, and socially, and endeavoring also to act towards others according to that high standard of conduct required by my fraternity. I solemnly promise that I will be loyal to the Delta Upsilon fraternity and to this chapter, abiding by their rules, discharging my obligations to them faithfully, and using all honorable means to promote their interests. I solemnly promise that I will share with my brothers the duties of my chapter, that I will uphold and encourage them in all that is honorable and right, that I will ever extend to each brother the right hand of sympathy, and that at all times and in all circumstances, I will endeavor to cultivate those sentiments which should ever exist between brothers. All this I solemnly promise upon my honor without any equivocation, mental reservation, or secret evasion of mind whatsoever.
Thank you, Brother Caldwell. I would like to introduce the officers of the convention of the 186th anniversary of Delta Upsilon, elected by the Undergrad Advisory Board. The recorders of the convention will be Patrick Finane, Missouri 22, and Kenny Warman, Lehigh 22. The secretary will be Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville 22. Serving as parliamentarian of the convention is Brother Timothy Dowd, Oklahoma 75. I am Cole Cairns, Alberta 21, chairman of the Undergraduate Advisory Board and chairman of the convention. The following brothers have been elected by the individual provinces to represent undergraduate concerns on the Undergraduate Advisory Board. Province 1, Kenny Warman, Lehigh 22. Province 2, Donovan Rivera, Western Reserve 21. Province 3, Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville 22. Province 4, Patrick Finane, Missouri 22. Province 5, Kyle Cosmos, San Diego State 22. Province 6, Cole Cairns, Alberta 21. Let us thank these brothers for taking their time to represent your views to the international fraternity. Numerous brothers have been appointed and have agreed to serve on the special and standing committees of the convention. Unless there's any objection, in order to save time, we'll dispense with the reading of their names and have it placed in the record of the convention. I now call for the report of credentials of the Credentials Committee. The report will be given by Brother Blake Poljeski, North Dakota 22. Brother Poljeski.
The Credentials Committee is responsible for determining which chapters meet the necessary requirements to vote during the meeting of this convention and assembly, per the fraternity's bylaws, Article 3, Section 1. The committee finds that the following chapters are ineligible to vote: for finances more than 90 days late in paying any fees, dues, or assessments to the fraternity, Boise State, Hamilton, Houston, Iona, Kent State, Michigan, Northwestern, Ohio, Seton Hall Colony. For reorganization status, Houston, North Florida, San Jose. For revocation of charter, Ohio State, Purdue, Tufts. Fraternally submitted, the 2020 Credentials Committee.
May I have a motion from a delegate to accept the report of the Credentials Committee? You may type the motion in the chat Zoom box.
We have a motion from Brother Clayton Cooper, Western Reserve Chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville Chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the Credentials Committee report? Seeing no dissension, the motion passes. I will now call upon brothers Patrick Finane, Missouri 22, and Kenny Warman, Lehigh 22, recorders of the convention, who will now call the convention chapter roll. Will the chapter delegate please type present to the roll call in the Zoom chat box when you are hearing your name's chapter. Please note the roll call is based on the chapters found in the state.
Hamilton, Vermont, Western Reserve, Rochester, Rutgers, Colgate, Miami, Cornell, Syracuse, Michigan, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Lafayette, Lehigh, DePaul, California, Nebraska, Toronto, Chicago, Illinois, Pennsylvania State, Iowa State, Indiana, Oregon State, Virginia, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Western Ontario, Oregon, Alberta, San Jose, Kent State, Louisville, Texas, Bradley, North Carolina, Ohio, Kansas State, Georgia Tech, Florida, Wichita, Clarkson, North Dakota, San Diego State, Arlington, Cal Poly, North Dakota State, Maryland, Houston, Western Illinois, South Carolina, Michigan Tech, Culver Stockton, Guelph, Iona, Carthage, Central Florida, North Florida, Embry-Riddle, Boise State, Elon, James Madison, Christopher Newport, Quinnipiac, Seton Hall, Colony, Bucknell Colony, Loyola Marymount Colony, and Colorado Colony.
Brother Chairman, 61 chapters are present, 50 of which are in good standing, which is sufficient for a quorum of the convention.
The minutes of the 85th anniversary of Delta Upsilon have been distributed via email. May I have a motion from a delegate to dispense with their reading and approve them?
We have a motion from Brother Clayton Cooper, Western Reserve Chapter.
Is there a second?
Second from Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville Chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the 2019 convention minutes? Seeing no dissension, the motion passes. I now call upon Brother AJ Fidanzo Bradley 22, member of the Legislation Committee, for the report of the committee. A copy of the proposed agenda as prepared for the Legislation Committee of the convention has been distributed via email to all the delegates.
Thank you. The Legislation or Convention Committee is responsible for reviewing any items of old business from previous conventions, establishing the list of specific items to be considered in new business at this convention, certification that proposed legislation has or has not met the requirements of the Constitution and bylaws, and recommending the order in which all items of business will be considered by the Assembly. The minutes of the convention and assembly of the 185th anniversary of Delta Upsilon have been reviewed. The committee finds that there is no old legislation to be considered by this convention. The committee reports that the fraternity has received 4 new proposed amendments to the Constitution and bylaws to be considered at this convention.
Thank you, Brother Fidanzo. The chair will now entertain a motion that the order of business as detailed in the convention agenda previously distributed be adopted. May I have a motion from a delegate to accept the agenda?
Motion. We have a motion from Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother Austin Shumard, Culver Stockton chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the agenda? Seeing no dissension, the motion passes. We will begin with the reports of fraternity officers and committees. At this time, I would like to call upon the president of Delta Upsilon International Fraternity, who will share the vision and strategic direction of Delta Upsilon. Brothers, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Brother Thomas Durin, Oregon State 92, Delta Upsilon International Fraternity President, Brother Durin.
Good afternoon, brothers, and good morning, brothers, depending on where you are. Although we are virtual, it is great to be with you today. In what felt like the blink of an eye this spring, our world stopped on a dime. In March 2020, COVID-19 became a global pandemic and halted much of our day-to-day existence. Around the globe, universities and businesses closed. We were asked to limit our travel and to figure out how to learn and work from home. You were asked to curb your social interactions with your chapters and your friends and to turn to your computers for all of your schoolwork. We learned the term social distancing. I couldn't be more proud of how our undergraduates and our alumni and our chapters have responded in this time of fraternity and adversity. COVID-19 has brought both challenges and opportunity. It would be easy for all of us to sit and complain about campus changes and our community reactions and restrictions and focuses on all that we cannot do. As we head into what we know can only be considered our new normal, I would encourage all of us to take a positive mindset and to consider with thoughtfulness all that we can do and the opportunity to explore and celebrate how we can begin to do things differently as an organization within our own communities on campus. It certainly has been a challenging 6 months. But if we've learned anything, it is that our brotherhood and Delta Upsilon experience is essential and more important now than ever. We've been reminded of how much our brothers mean to us, how much we miss them when we can't be with them on a regular basis. We've discovered new ways to stay connected and to support each other, and how we will persevere. This is not the first time in the world, or even in Delta Upsilon, that we've been impacted by such a large-scale global event. We've endured wars and other outbreaks. In 1918, for example, we dealt with both at the same time. But by working together and focusing on one another's needs, Delta Upsilon came out of the World War I, out of 2 world wars, World War II, a civil war, and the influenza pandemic of 1918, stronger That is exactly what we are committed to and what will happen now. As we've worked into our new normal, I would like to just briefly acknowledge and thank the fact that our DU staff, our staff at the Delta Upsilon International Headquarters, has been working tirelessly on your behalf to help us adjust and to work to support you. We are here for you, and we are committed to you and to your success, and most importantly, to your fulfillment, your personal fulfillment of your Delta Upsilon experience. Yesterday, during the DU Board of Directors meeting, we spent time discussing our principles and considering what justice, our foundation, really means in today's society. That conversation has left me inspired. I'm inspired that our founding beliefs and principles are as relevant today as they were in 1834. And I'm inspired to think about a higher level of action and boldness for what DU will deliver to undergraduates, alumni, and to the world going forward. Before our world changed in March, I had the pleasure and the privilege of representing your fraternity across the North America at alumni receptions in Kansas, in Florida, and I was even honored to facilitate initiation with our brothers and our undergraduate and alumni at the University of Nebraska. I'd like to thank all of our brothers for their warmth and their hospitality, and for all the phone calls, the emails, and the interactions that I'm fortunate to be able to have with our brothers across North America. We're grateful for your time, we're grateful for your attention, and your commitment, ongoing commitment to our brotherhood. Brothers, all of you are leaders in your chapters, or you wouldn't be sitting here today. And when you took on this leadership role, none of us knew what we would be signing up for, or for the challenges that we would face together. But here we are. Our fraternity has always risen to these challenges, and I know that we will again. We're looking forward to the next year. We wish you safety and happiness and good brotherhood as you head into the school year 2020 and 2021. And we thank you for your commitment to your leadership roles and to your chapters. Dikaya Yupatheka.
Thank you, Brother Dryan. Next, I would like to call upon the chairman of the board of directors of the fraternity, who will report the state of Delta Upsilon. It is my pleasure to introduce Brother Robert Lannon, Nebraska 81, chairman of the Delta Upsilon board of directors. Brother Lannon.
Thank you, Cole. I'm Bob Lannon. I'm chairman of the board, and I wish that we were all there in person sharing brotherhood. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we cannot do so, but it is great to see all of you virtually. This past academic year was unlike any other. We were having a successful year, and then our worlds changed in March once the pandemic hit and our universities and campuses started to close. I will share with you some statistics, but I first want to give you an overview on how the fraternity responded. Our staff immediately shifted our efforts from in-person visits to coaching chapters on how to operate virtually and assisting house corporations with students leaving campus. We began delivering programming to support chapters in a virtual environment. We were able to shift our operations pretty quickly. Like any organization or business, the pandemic significantly impacted our headquarters operations. We began scenario planning to see how we could operate through the remainder of the spring and summer. Our treasurer, Dave Whitman, will speak and share some more specific details, but to secure the health of the fraternity, we did furlough nearly 1/3 of our fraternity staff. They have not yet returned to work. Despite having fewer staff, we knew we'd have to provide more services to prepare chapters for this pandemic year. We provided a number of virtual programs over the summer, knowing that recruitment this fall would be unlike any other. we offered one-on-one recruitment coaching to any interested chapter, and 55 chapters took advantage. If you think your chapter needs recruitment assistance, please let us know. As far as the year in review, despite the challenges and those that lie before us, Delta Upsilon has persevered. At the end of the school year, our 69 chapters had 3,758 undergraduates with an average chapter size of 55 brothers. 894 men were initiated into our fraternity, 47 of whom were part of DU's first ever virtual initiation. The fraternity welcomed the return of our Colorado chapter with a successful expansion last fall. We also rechartered our Missouri chapter in November and look forward to the Bucknell chapters rechartering this fall. Congratulations to undergraduates, because you ended the spring term with a DU average GPA of 3.26, up from a 3.08 last year. Also, our undergraduate brothers conducted a total of 25,461 service hours last year for an average of 8 hours per member. And despite the shortened spring term, our chapters were able to raise more than $64,000 for the Global Service Initiative. From a chapter servicing standpoint, DU staff made 113 chapter visits last year and conducted 15 Building Better Men retreats. Even though our summer educational programs were affected by the pandemic, 1,353 brothers still were impacted by an in-person DU educational program next year. As for what the upcoming year holds, the fraternity is prioritizing our continued development of virtual educational programs, such as webinars and roundtable discussions, so we can continue to deliver important programming while socially distant. Our new chapter servicing model will include monthly touch points with every chapter from their chapter liaison, and our chapters that need the most support will have weekly meetings with the staff. Despite not being able to be on the road, we have more touch points with our chapters than ever before. A few discussion items I want to note for you. We have streamlined the CEP and Men of Merit program to make it more user-friendly and accommodate campus restrictions due to the pandemic. We did our first virtual chapter retreat this past week, and we will continue them throughout the fall. Every other week, we will provide virtual programs and training. We will move to virtual roundtables to engage chapter officers beginning in October. Also in October, we will begin a monthly executive leadership series with successful DU alumni. And we will continue to monitor whether we can hold in-person educational programming starting next spring. You may have heard there's an abolish fraternity movement being organized on some campuses across the country. We strongly believe that Delta Upsilon was founded and is still positioned to address the exact issues the abolish fraternity movement is concerned about. We should stand up to any of these movements and be leaders on our campuses for change. Also, in light of the racial injustice issues, we have an Advancement of Justice Task Force that is well on its way to identifying programming needs to ensure we remain firmly rooted in our founding principles. As you can see, we have much to celebrate. Delta Upsilon is strong when we work together, even in a pandemic. And personally, my thanks to the staff for all of their hard work under unprecedented times. Your efforts are truly appreciated. Thank you very much, Cole.
Thank you, Brother Lennon. We will now hear the report on the state of the fraternity's finances by the treasurer of the fraternity. I am pleased to introduce Brother David Whitman, Indiana 75. Brother Whitman.
Good afternoon. A little over a year ago, in July of 2019, we passed a budget as a fraternity, a $60,000 deficit budget. It's not good practice to have deficit budgets, but at the time we had a number of strategic initiatives in place, and we didn't want to increase fees, and we saw a path to invest in the fraternity with that budget. But that was a very long time ago in the context of our finances. We did end the year, so I'll just get to the punchline. We started with a $60,000 deficit budget, and we ended the year with a $160,000 loss at our most recent year end, which was June 30th, 2020. So worse, but there was a lot of things that happened in between. A lot of revenue fell off. GSI fundraising, which is typically, much of which happens in the spring semester, didn't happen. Many of our associate members were not initiated, and therefore fees associated with that were not paid. And unfortunately, we had a significant increase in our bad debts from chapters. All of those served to make a much larger deficit. Those were offset, as Bob mentioned earlier, those were offset by some furloughed staff, which have not been replaced. Some staff took voluntary pay cuts, and those are really the most significant actions, in addition to the fact that a lot of travel expenses that we had previously planned were not incurred in that second semester. We also have suspended collecting interest and late fees for the last year. So it's as I said, a lot of ups and downs, all of which came to another $100,000 deficit. But we are resilient. We do have reserves. So the permanent trust fund that we have gives us about $80,000 a year in drawings. So that continues to go on with our finances. Going forward, for the budget for the coming year, again, we still have some furloughed staff. We suspended any planned fee increases. We've suspended interest and late fees, and we're using some of our loss prevention reserves to subsidize our loss prevention fees, all of which is leading to a roughly $150,000 deficit budget going into the new year. We're fine. We are a sustainable organization right now, but it was not a good year. And coming year looks to be a little rocky too. But I think the staff and the board is doing a really good job of trying to manage through this in an effective, sustainable way. And that's the report.
Thank you, Brother Whitman. At this time, I would like to briefly report on the activities of the Undergraduate Advisory Board. This year's Undergraduate Advisory Board has decided on 3 primary goals we hope to accomplish during our time together. I will get right into the details of each one of them. The first is we believe that there is a more efficient way to help keep everyone from executive members to general members involved. This would be through sending out a simple bullet point text message through some sort of messenger system. The reason we all believe this is needed is because at the moment we all agreed that the current Friday fast breaks contain excessive amounts of general information that drown out the important dates and deadlines of events. Our second goal is to find a way to help put chapters of similar sizes into contact with one another. As a chapter consisting of 20 members will go through more often than not completely different challenges than a chapter consistent of 100+ members. This, we believe, will help chapter executives more effectively overcome issues by being able to learn from other chapters' experience on select topics. The final goal we hope to accomplish this year is better transparency and accessibility of where exactly our international dues go. As at the moment, we get very generalized answers in terms of percentages, and through my personal experience of contacting other chapters, I cannot see any consistency in how LP fee percentages are determined for each chapter. As an organization founded on the belief of non-secrecy, I believe that it is only right that our international share these same values with its members paying hundreds of dollars to just be a part of the organization. With that being said, I do hope we can have exact dollar amounts of where funds are directed and how loss prevention fees are determined and utilized. Thank you so much for your time and attention. We now turn to unfinished and new business. As we consider legislative proposals today, I believe that it is important to remind each of the delegates the bylaws of the fraternity, Article 4, Section 2, specifically states the right of any delegate to exercise his judgment on any matter before convention and to vote accordingly shall not affected by any instructions from his chapter, nor shall he be held to answer for any deviation from any such instructions. Brothers, as the representative of the legislation/convention committee reported earlier, there was found to be no unfinished business. As the representative of the legislation/convention committee previously reported, there are 4 new items of legislation proposed. Per the fraternity's Article 7, Section 1, this constitution may be amended by 2/3 vote of the delegates present at the convention and the trustees present at the Assembly of Trustees, provided that at least 60 days prior to either such vote, notice of any proposed amendments shall have been provided to each undergraduate and alumni chapter. Please refer to the proposed legislation document shared via email for additional details. The first proposed item of legislation is to change the term colony to associate chapter. The word colony can have a negative connotation to it related to historical events of countries and people colonizing native lands. Many higher education institutions are moving away from the term and have requested fraternities and sororities change the term they use when establishing or reestablishing a chapter on campus. The change to associate chapter corresponds with Delta Upsilon's use of associate member. An associate member is not yet initiated, like an associate chapter is not fully chartered, not a fully chartered chapter. But in the process of becoming one, the term colony appears throughout the fraternity's constitution and bylaws, and this proposed legislation would change it to associate chapter. The chair will now entertain a motion that the convention consider the first proposed amendment. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother AJ Fendonzo, Bradley chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? We will now move into voting. Each delegate from a chapter in good standing will receive a text to vote on proposed legislation item 1. Please follow the voting instructions in the text. If you do not receive a text within the next 2 minutes, please let us know in the chat box.
And just as a note, please be patient as the text messages are coming to you. And as Cole mentioned, please let us know if you do have any issues or do not receive a text message. Just an update for everyone. We are still waiting for some text to be delivered. So again, appreciate everyone's patience and letting us know if you've not received those. We are getting those out as soon as we can. Thank you.
The motion has passed. The second proposed item of legislation is to revise the Undergraduate Advisory Board election terms. This proposed amendment would revise the written UGAB election terms to fall in line with the practice of electing all positions every year rather than staggered 2-year terms. The chair will now entertain a motion that the convention considers the second proposed amendment. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother Chancellor Caldwell, Louisville chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother Will Kirkconnell, Michigan Tech chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? We will now move into voting. Each delegate from a chapter in good standing will receive a text message, same as last time. Please follow the instructions. Again, if you do not receive a text within the next 2 minutes, please let us know in the chat box.
So Austin, in response to your question regarding why to move from 2-year periods to 1-year periods, it has been practiced of just 1-year periods, and within the Constitution and bylaws, that's not worded that way. And so the practice has been for the past 10 years of 1-year UGAB terms instead of the 2 years. So just the language change there is for the proposed amendment.
The motion has passed. The third proposed item of legislation is to revise the undergraduate director's election process. This proposed amendment would revise the undergraduate director's election process to fall in line with the practice of electing undergraduate directors during the convention from all delegates and not from the undergraduate advisory board. The chair will now entertain a motion that the convention consider the third proposed amendment. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother AJ Indanzo, Bradley chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother Blake Poljewski, North Dakota chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? We will now move into voting, and same process as last time. The motion has passed. The fourth proposed item of legislation is to clarify the collection of fees. This proposed amendment would clarify that it is the fraternity staff that manages the actual collection of fees, dues, and assessments, not the treasurer of the fraternity. The chair will now entertain a motion that the convention consider the fourth proposed amendment. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother Will Kirkconnell, Michigan Tech Chapter,
Is there a second?
and a second from Brother AJ Findanzo, Bradley Chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? We will now move into voting, and same as last time. The motion has passed. I now call upon Brother Andrew Shaw, Clarkson 20, for the Resolution Committee's report. Brother Shaw.
Cool. The Resolutions Committee is pleased to submit the 7 resolutions for approval by the Undergrad Convention. They are as follows. A resolution recognizing our DU colonies and encouraging DU's growth. A resolution recognizing the departing undergrad members of the Board of Directors. A resolution welcoming the new staff members and thanking the continuing staff. A resolution thanking the outgoing members of the fraternity staff for their service and wishing them good luck in the future. And the following 3 resolutions that we wish to be read in their entirety. Whereas the Missouri chapter was reestablished on November 2nd, 2019 at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. And whereas the Missouri chapter was originally established on December 6th, 1924 as the 54th chapter of Delta Upsilon. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that this convention in the 186th year of the International congratulates back to the fraternity's chapter role. Whereas Brother Terry L. Bullock, Kansas State 60, a loyal and dedicated member of the Delta Upsilon fraternity, and a proud fraternity as a member of the Board of Directors for 18 years, serving the final 5 years as president of the fraternity from 1983 to 1988. And whereas he represented Delta Upsilon well in a distinguished career as a respected professor and jurist, and whereas he was a 2001 recipient of the Delta Upsilon Distinguished Alumni Award, the fraternity's highest honor, and whereas he has left an indelible footprint on this fraternity throughout his years of spirited and inspirational leadership. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that this convention in the 186th year of the Delta Upsilon International Fraternity expresses its deepest sympathies and sincere regrets, and recognizes that his passing is an enormous and immeasurable loss to the brotherhood. Whereas public discourse has become rancorous in recent months, and whereas there are many divisive issues to contend with within our fraternity and in society, and whereas the Delta Upsilon ritual requires us to instruct, reprove, and admonish each other with all kindness, and whereas the diffusion of liberal culture and the advancement of justice are founding principles of our fraternity, and whereas the fraternity's Board of Directors established the Advancement of Justice Task Force to ensure that the fraternity is actively engaged in creating a just world and educating our members on social challenges. And whereas Rite 1 of our initiation rituals states, to forward the ends of enlightened equity demands knowledge and sympathy. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that this convention of the 186th year of the Delta Upsilon International Fraternity reaffirms our commitment to engage in civil discourse on all topics, regardless of differing viewpoints, and to continue the battles of justice with knowledge and sympathy towards our fellow man. The Resolutions Committee enthusiastically seeks your acceptance and adoption of these resolutions. Thank you.
The chair will now entertain a motion that the convention adopt the resolutions as presented by the Resolutions Committee. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother Clayton Cooper, Western Reserve Chapter.
Is there a second?
We have a second from Brother Sunkin Tai, Toronto Chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to the Resolutions Committee report? Seeing no dissension, the motion passes. We will now move into the election process for the for the 2 undergraduate director positions on the fraternity's Board of Directors. Each candidate will give a 3-minute speech to the convention, with the opportunity for up to a 3-minute question period following the speech. After the speeches, each delegate will cast their vote for 2 of the candidates. In order to be elected, a candidate must receive a simple majority. If after the first round of voting, no candidate or only one candidate received a simple majority, the candidate receiving the lowest number of votes will be eliminated and a second voting will take place for the remaining vacancies. Before the second round of voting commences, if necessary, there will be an additional 3-minute question period of any questions to any candidate. The second round of voting, if necessary, will be conducted in the same way, with each delegate casting their vote for 2 candidates if one candidate receives a simple majority in the first round. Then each delegate will vote for only one candidate in subsequent rounds. With the election process explained, we will now move into the candidate speech process. The candidate speeches will be delivered in alphabetical order. Please refer to the candidate information emailed to you earlier this week. We will ask candidates to return to the Zoom waiting room when they are not giving their speeches. AJ Fidanzo, Bradley 22, Kyle Kilip, Florida 21, Alden Maj Flager, Alberta 22, Matthew Talley, Maryland 21.
Am I allowed to begin?
Yes, AJ.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is AJ Fidanzo, and I'm a junior industrial engineering student at Bradley University. I joined DU in the fall of 2018, and since then, I have had the time of my life. I have made friends that will last a lifetime and taken advantage of multiple opportunities solely afforded to me because of my connection with this fraternity. Outside of DU, I serve as a chairman on the Student Senate, and this summer, I was elected to be a part of our university's president's Return to Student Life Committee, where I served as the student rep to create university-wide policies in response to COVID-19. In DU, I've had the privilege of serving as a house manager and now chapter president. In April, I represented DU in a NIC conference covering chapter operations and recruitment during the pandemic, and I filmed a speech for DU covering Leading Through Challenge. I also was on the legislative committee, whose report I read earlier. Lastly, this summer I was recognized as a Ray Zarvell Scholarship recipient for my commitment and dedication to my chapter. All of this exposure to the greater network our fraternity offers, combined with my great undergraduate experience on campus, has compelled me to get further involved and run for this position here today. Before I was even elected president of my chapter, while I was still building my vision, I went to every member of the fraternity, all 104 at the time, and individually talked to each one about what they saw as our chapter's biggest issues. No one had ever done this at my chapter before, and to me, this is the way to truly understand who you are representing. And I still, to this day, look at the document where I recorded everyone's responses. I have learned that people will say things to you one-on-one that they may not say otherwise, and this is how I truly learned what ran through the heart of my chapter. With the normalization and ease of Zoom and other similar services, I will apply this same winning formula on the international level. By communicating and building personal relationships with each chapter, I will put myself in all of your shoes so I can speak with passion and knowledge to the board about your issues. Having listened very closely to all of you at RLA, President's Academy, as well as tonight, I already feel that I will do a great job representing you. On top of that, Bradley is a mid-sized university that includes chapters of 100 plus members and chapters with less than 15. So I've had exposure to both big school and small school fraternal problems, which allows me to relate to chapters across the board. I also personally have close relationships with alumni who have served decades for the International Fraternity, which I will continue to utilize, as well as my friendship with the current undergraduate director, Nico Mendoza, who was actually the president of my chapter my freshman year. Overall, I am a very hard worker, I am a good communicator, and most importantly, I wholeheartedly care about this fraternity. I have absolutely no issues voicing the unpopular opinions, and that is what is desperately needed, as it seems the gap between those in Indianapolis and us across the nation and Canada constantly increases. I want my voice to support programs and decisions.
Brother AJ, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
Apologize. We're going to move into questions for the candidate. So if you do have a question, please type it into the chat box and I will ask those to Brother AJ. Okay, seeing no questions, Brother AJ, appreciate your time, and we'll move forward with the next candidate, Brother Kyle Kipple from Florida. Brother Kyle, your time, you have the floor.
Thank you. Justice, our foundation. The foundational words of our fraternity, it cements the centerpiece of our purpose. Our founders personified these ideals. Our first international fraternity president, David Charles Hughes, was appointed one of only 17 U.S. Chief Justices. It is not good luck that has allowed the sixth oldest social fraternity to flourish these past 186 years. It's the continuing affirmation in our hearts of embodying non-secrecy and the advancement of justice that keeps the fire burning ever brighter. I have served as an active member of the National Communications Committee of the Order of the Arrow, or the Honor Society of the Boy Scouts of America. In this role, I worked alongside high-level adult leadership and other youth leaders to best share the message of our organization. Leading the team that designed a 48-page lifestyle magazine opened my perspectives to stories and best practices from all corners of the country. Through this, I learned about the wide diversity of experiences and how each region of the country is unique, each finding creative ways to live out the values of our organization. Attending the DU Emerging Leaders Experience, or DUAL, really helped form me into the Delta Upsilon brother that I am today. Encouraged by other motivated up-and-coming DU leaders, I also collaborated with many of them once again at President's Academy. Uniting the different voices of chapters and associate chapters will be a paramount priority as an undergraduate director. Above all, my goal is to keep an open ear and to listen to our members. As a prior chapter leader, I understand many of the challenges chapters are facing right now. CEPs, reestablishing brotherhood, possibly lost during the pandemic, making the most of a virtual experience, or encouraging brothers to take on new leadership roles. I want to be a resource to help each chapter become a better chapter, helping them to build better men. Lastly, I want to challenge our chapters. In Right 2, it is shared that, quote, our past is secure. Our future depends upon our vigilance. Later on, we are told, quote, in this brotherhood, justice is our guiding principle. And as justice is but truth in action, it is our deeds that testify our loyalty to the ideals of our fraternity. It is our duty to remain vigilant, to embody and carry on these principles, just as generations of DUs have before us. I thank you for your time. My name is Kyle Kipple, and I humbly ask for your vote as an undergraduate director. Takaya.
Thank you, Brother Kyle. We will now open the floor up to any questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. Kyle, there is a question from Brother Austin at Culver Stockton. His question is, will this position overwhelm you? I see that you were the representative, much like me, to this President's Academy, RLA, and the delegate conventions, but I see you have a 2.8 GPA along with just being a president over the summer. This is a lot of responsibility to pick up in such a small time. Are you prepared for that?
Thank you. Yes, I was just an interim president over the course of the summer. So I stepped in from loss prevention to help deal with the COVID situation as everything broke down in March. Since then, I have stepped back from that role and I am just serving as vice president of loss prevention from the end of my term. In regards to GPA, I've made a much bigger focus, especially since 2020 with my grades and keeping up better academically. Before, I'll be non-secrecy, I have had some mental health issues about 2.5 years ago. And so understanding that, that's one of the skills I want to take to now in this national position to help other chapters understand mental health and to especially understand how to address men's mental health. Because I feel, even though I was a brother in my fraternity, I wasn't able to truly get the support I needed at that time. And so now that I am better, I have help, I've reached support, and I have a better support network. I've been able to balance my time much better to ensure maximum productivity and efficiency.
Any additional questions for Brother Kipple? Seeing none, Brother Kipple, we appreciate your time, and we'll move forward with the next nominee, which is Brother Alden, Alberta 22. Brother Alden, are you in the meeting or in the convention?
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Brother Alden, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Perfect. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to ask everyone here, what do you want to see out of DU International this year? My name is Alden Madge, and I'm a DU from Alberta, Canada. I'm running for this position because I have the experience, skills, and passion, as well as a list of succinct goals to work towards this year. My chapter and alumni organization, many who have previously served on this board and at IHQ, encouraged me to run based on my time spent at my own chapter. I built up much of my experience there, serving in a large range of roles, including philanthropy chair, associate member education chair, vice president member education, and currently as president. This was coupled with various awards, including the highest chapter GPA and active of the year, as well as over 15 other campus and community awards. This experience is also rooted in inter-Greek activity, with my current involvement as president of my campus's Order of Omega chapter. This widespread of involvement earned me the 2020 Greek of the Year award in my campus of over 30,000 people. I have experience with various involvement on boards in both the public and private sectors as well. I've helped manage millions as part of municipal committees and sat on national planning committees with one of Canada's largest NGOs, the MS Society of Canada. I've also worked lots with the International Board this recent year, working on the first ever Canadian substance-free waiver program. This experience has translated into important skills. Organization, through various work I've done to manage many components very efficiently and timely. Interpersonal skills, helping others resolve issues as well as maintain board decorum. Communication by acting as the spokesperson for many organizations and initiatives, always acting with professionalism. I have a strong passion for DU and our future. To embrace the inclusivity of our organization and upholding the founding principles is paramount to me. To ensure a united DU that can recognize regional and local differences at the same time. By having diverse voices, whether that means smaller chapters or individuals within chapters, uplifted in every major decision of the fraternity. For specific goals, I want to encourage more flexible review frameworks to take individual and regional differences into account. I want to advocate for diverse opinions in decision-making by introducing criteria to consider how all chapters may be impacted in decision-making. Lastly, I want to ensure that chapters continue to have support during COVID and fight for DU accessibility through affordability and costs. 2020 has been a very difficult year, but I am optimistic for a better future for DU moving forward. I hope you all can trust me to be a part of achieving this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Alden. We will open the floor now for any questions. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat box. Okay, seeing none, Brother Alden, we appreciate your time, and we will move forward with our last candidate, Brother Matthew from Maryland. Brother Matthew, the floor is yours, and you have 3 minutes whenever you begin.
Good afternoon, brothers. My name is Matthew Talley, and I'm a senior at the University of Maryland, pursuing a dual degree in marketing and operations management. From our fraternity's founding as a non-secret, non-hazing organization all the way to today, from the creation of the membership outcomes assessment to the early adoption of substance-free housing, Delta Upsilon has continuously led the fraternity world as an organization that's committed to deliver the fraternal experience the right way. This last year, I've had the privilege to serve the fraternity at some of the highest levels. As the chairman of the Undergraduate Advisory Board, I was able to establish an operating framework for the board, build connections between local chapters through regional communication channels, as well as working with chapter leaders to provide input to the board of directors and IHQ. I was also able to intern at IHQ last summer, developing a familiarity with IHQ's policies and positions, a deeper understanding of their organizational structure, and developed various resources for chapters. Meanwhile, on my own campus, I've served in a variety of roles in everything from a vice president on our own campus's Interfraternity Council and Order of Omega, as well as the director of research and data analytics for the SGA, to the president of Entrepreneur, receiving awards such as the Residence Hall Association Member of the Year, Forbes 30 Under 30 Scholar, and the Gold Presidential Service Award. Uniquely, I've cultivated a number of experiences serving on nonprofit boards. As a member of the Board of Trustees for the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Foundation, the Maryland Advisory Board for the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, as well as the University of Maryland's Title IX Advisory Board and the City of College Park Student Advisory Council. As a member of my chapter's Alpha class, I was uniquely positioned in guiding my chapter as a member of our executive board as we transition from a colony to an effectively operating chapter, helping lead our chapter to win our campus's Best New Member Education Program Award, and our chapter being nominated as a finalist for this year's Sweepstake Award. As undergraduate director, I intend to work directly with you and the members of your chapter to best represent your experiences and perspectives to the board of directors. In order to do this, I specifically plan to work alongside the other director to establish quarterly presidential roundtables as an opportunity to provide direct feedback, questions, and input to the undergraduate directors to be relayed to the board. I also plan to work with the board to discuss the potential of creating professional development materials for ongoing membership education, as well as exploring the development of a health and wellness campaign focused on engaging members in conversations around healthy lifestyles. Ever since I joined Delta Upsilon, whether it be at the chapter, campus, or even the international level, I've had a desire to serve my fraternity as much as I'm able to. I've cultivated a passion for Greek life and have worked tirelessly to better understand the work that goes on both at the campus and headquarters level in shaping the Greek experience. I hope to serve on the board in the coming year to be able to continue serving the highest level and provide an experience that upholds not only our four founding principles, but lasts long beyond their time in college.
Thank you, Brother Matthew. We will now turn it over to any questions. If you do have any questions, please put those in the chat box. Okay, seeing none, Brother Matthew, we appreciate your time, and I will now turn it back over to the chairman to run us through the voting process.
Thank you. We will now move into voting. Each delegate from a chapter in good standings will receive a text to vote on the undergraduate directors. Please follow the voting instructions in the text. If you do not receive a text within the next 2 minutes, please let us know in the chat box.
For those individuals who have who are not receiving text messages, please direct message the Delta Upsilon IHQ account privately with your vote for 2 of the nominees. So once again, if you have not been receiving text messages, please direct message the Delta Upsilon IHQ account privately with 2 votes, a vote for 1 nominee each.
Congratulations to AJ Bedonzo and Alban Madge Flanger. While there is no further business reported to the Legislation Committee for consideration, is there any business to be exclusively considered by the convention at this time? Also, a reminder that tonight's awards celebration begins at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. It will be streamed on the fraternity's Facebook and YouTube channels. Are there any other announcements? There being no further business, I would like to ask all present to join in singing Hail Delta Upsilon. Thank you again, brothers. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this convention of the 186th anniversary of Delta Upsilon. You may type the motion in the Zoom chat box.
We have a motion from Brother AJ Vindanzo, Bradley chapter.
Second.
We have a second from Brother Blake Poljewski, North Dakota chapter.
Any discussion on the motion? Is there any opposition to adjourn the convention? Seeing no dissension, the motion carries. Brothers, I now declare the meeting of this convention of the 186th anniversary of Delta Upsilon adjourned.